Top 4 State Quarter Coins Worth Big Money. Welcome to Numismatic Vault Extra. Today, we're exploring the top 4 most valuable state quarter dollar coins from the United States of America, United States. We'll look at their current market values, highlight rare error coins, and explain the specific conditions that make certain state quarters highly valuable, including silver varieties and unique color shades that have become major players in the coin collector and investor world. These rare treasures are more than just pieces of history. They're valuable coins collectors are actively hunting today. So, if you're a coin enthusiast or someone who appreciates the beauty and significance of American currency, backhand index pointing right.
The story of the 1999 state quarter begins in an era when America was quietly celebrating its roots even as it stood on the brink of a new millennium. The year 1999 carried the hum of anticipation, the thrill of Y2K, and the echo of centuries of change. In pockets, wallets, and coin rolls everywhere, small pieces of metal carried stories, but none quite like the state quarter program, a revolutionary idea that brought a unique symbol of American identity to every corner of the nation. Among these, the Denver minted 1999 quarter holds a special place, not just as currency, but as a potential treasure waiting to be discovered. When the United States Mint introduced the state quarters program in 1999, it was the beginning of something unprecedented in American numismatics. Instead of the same old eagle on the reverse, each coin would celebrate a different state's heritage, culture, or defining symbol. For the first time, coins became miniature monuments, portable pieces of history that connected everyday Americans to the stories of their states. The 1999 D quarter was part of this groundbreaking series, minted in Denver and destined to travel across the nation. At Philadelphia and Denver, mint presses churned out millions of these state quarters, each born from a queue of planchets, with the promise of spreading history through everyday change. From bus fare to vending machines, to loose change in coin jars, the 1999 D Washington quarter clattered into circulation with a purpose that was humble at first glance, yet rich with symbolic power. No one holding one back then imagined that decades later, certain examples might be recognized as rare, invaluable moments of American story. The Denver D mint mark itself became a mark of quiet identity. It signified the coin was struck in the mile-high city, where craftsmanship met precision and mass production met hidden uniqueness. To most people, that little letter is easily overlooked, but to collectors it is a signature, a whisper of place and process that can elevate a simple coin from ordinary to extraordinary. The 1999 D is not just coinage, it is an artifact with a birthplace, a story, and the potential for immense value. Across history, coins have been more than money. They are communications from one era to the next, tiny tangible time capsules. The 1999 D quarter captures that essence perfectly. On one face, the familiar portrait of George Washington evokes the nation's very foundation and tells us we are part of a lineage that stretches beyond our own lifetimes. On the reverse, the design unique to its state shares a story, a cultural shrug or shout that says, "This is who we are." While millions of these 1999 D state quarters circulated widely, most endured the rough reality of pocket change. They were jostled with keys, dropped on concrete, carried until their edges frayed and their surfaces lost their original luster. Ordinary were reduced millions to mere reminders of commerce. Yet among these everyday survivors, some escaped that fate. A tiny fraction remained unspent, pristine, and perfect, survivors that now stand apart from the masses with a quiet aura of rarity. Condition matters because coins age like living things. The more use they see, the more they lose of their original promise. In the coin world, collectors constantly chase high-grade examples, pieces that survive decades untouched by circulation, revealing sharp details, full mint luster, and surfaces that look almost like the moment they rolled off the mint press. These survivors are the ones that fuel dreams of discovery and spark auction room excitement. But rarity alone does not guarantee fascination. The deeper magic of the 1999 quarter lies in possibility, the idea that something so common once accidentally carried a secret worth decades of pursuit. What if, among millions of these coins, there was a version with a remarkable error? What if a piece lacking the usual metal composition somehow reflected a rare planchet anomaly? These what-ifs stir the imagination and keep collectors digging deeper. Stories circulate among numismatists about extraordinary specimens, coins with striking detail differences, unusual surface qualities, or minting anomalies so subtle that they escape the untrained eye. Some whisper about edge mismatches, slight doubling of lettering, and unexpected relief strength. In the right condition, these anomalies can turn an unremarkable coin into a showpiece with serious monetary value, far beyond face value, and well into the realm of collector's gold. The emotional pull of these quarters also springs from nostalgia, from childhood memories of leaving the bank with a new roll of state quarters and checking each one eagerly. Back in 1999, most people spent these coins without ever examining them closely. But the idea that a long-forgotten quarter in an old wallet might be a gem now sparks endless excitement. It's the same feeling of anticipation we feel when opening an old drawer and finding something shining beneath layers of dust. In the modern coin market, the value of a piece is not just determined by rarity or metal. It's determined by story, context, and human connection. The 1999 quarter is not just a piece of copper nickel. It is a snapshot of America at a very specific moment, a moment of collective identity, pride in state heritage, and the final years of century-old currency traditions before digital money began to dominate. Collectors often speak of a 1999 quarter in exceptional condition as a living fossil. It is a remnant of a time that is no longer ordinary, a reminder of the physical world of money before electronic transactions swallowed so much of our daily interactions. In that light, a perfect coin is more than currency. It is a memory, a relic, and for some, a treasure with profound resonance. Part of the excitement comes from the idea that someone, somewhere, might have one of these in near-perfect condition without realizing what they hold. A jar passed down through generations. A dusty coin album forgotten in an attic. A wallet left untouched for years. The notion that someone could suddenly discover a coin with extraordinary quality fuels the collector's dream. The dream of transformation, of accidental fortune, of hidden jewels in plain sight. And this sense of possibility is what makes the 1999 state quarter such a compelling part of modern numismatics. It embodies the belief that a small, everyday object can hold tremendous worth, not just in dollar value, but in historical significance and emotional depth. The coin reminds us that value is not always loud or obvious. Sometimes it waits patiently, sheltered in shadow, until the right moment, and the right collector, brings it into the light. So, as years pass and time continues to spin forward, fewer and fewer pristine 1999 state quarters remain. Their scarcity grows, as does appreciation for what they represent. They stand at the crossroads of history, craftsmanship, and human curiosity. And for the person wise enough to recognize an extraordinary example, this simple quarter carries the quiet power to shift perspective, and perhaps, with the right market match, even change a fortune overnight. Next coin. The story of the 1999 Delaware State Quarter begins not with gold and glory, but with a quiet idea that the small things in life often carry the largest stories. In 1999, the United States Mint unveiled the first coins of the State Quarters program, a bold homage to the fabric of the nation itself. Among the very first struck was the Delaware Quarter, marked with a humble P, representing the Philadelphia Mint, and bearing the state's founding year of 1788, when Delaware became the very first state to ratify the Constitution. That singular moment in history, 1788, echoes through the coin's design, whispering of beginnings, unity, and a legacy that shaped the nation. Delaware's quarter was not just another piece of change. It was the inaugural chapter in a series that would reshape how Americans see everyday currency. Instead of the familiar eagle that had dominated the reverse of quarters for decades, the Delaware design placed a beloved colonial soldier and a farm wagon into a scene that felt alive with character. This wasn't just money. It was a miniature monument to a people, a place, and a story that deserved to be remembered every time someone reached into their pocket for 5 bits. The Philadelphia Mint struck millions of these Delaware state quarters in 1999, flooding banks, cash registers, and coin trays across the country. For most people, these coins were nothing more than change to spend, pass along, or toss into a coin jar. Few paused to consider that one of these same coins might someday be worth far more than its face value, that one could hold within its metal the power to transform a collector's life. What makes the 1999 Delaware quarter fascinating to collectors is not simply its place as the first in the state quarter series, but the emotional weight it carries. It represents a beginning, the start of a project that invited Americans to reconnect with the stories of each state, to see everyday coins as history in their hands. And because of that sense of occasion, people began to hold on to these coins just a little bit longer, saving them rather than spending them, without yet knowing their full significance. As decades passed, most Delaware quarters wore away through circulation, their edges softened, their surfaces scratched, their lusters lost. But a tiny percentage survived in exceptional condition, crisp, sharp, and glowing as if untouched by time. These survivors are the coins that stop collectors in their tracks, the ones that feel impossible to find, and the ones that drive the dream that ordinary change can become extraordinary treasure. Imagine discovering a Delaware quarter from 1999 today that still shines, like it was struck yesterday. Its design vivid, its surfaces untouched by pocket wear, its details sharp down to the wagon wheel spokes. To find such a coin is like uncovering a time capsule, a piece of history that has been quietly waiting for decades to reveal its beauty. Those coins are not ordinary. They are the rare survivors that make collectors' hearts race. Yet even beyond pristine condition, the 1999 Delaware quarter carries an additional layer of mystery and possibility. The thought that among these millions of coins, there could be something even rarer, a minting anomaly, an unusual strike, or a secret variation that slipped through unnoticed. In the world of numismatics, such errors can elevate a common coin into priceless legend. Whether it's a misaligned die, an unexpected finish, or a subtle doubling of the lettering, the allure of rarity is what keeps collectors examining every coin with intensity. These whispers of rare Delaware quarters are more than rumor. They are the lifeblood of the treasure hunting community. People spend hours flipping through old rolls, metal trays, and inherited jars of change, eyes trained for subtle differences, ears tuned for the sound of possibility. The belief that someone, somewhere could be holding a future fortune in the palm of their hand is the fuel that keeps the dream alive. And what makes this dream so irresistible is not just the potential monetary value, but the story that comes with it. A truly rare 1999 Delaware quarter would not be valuable because of silver content. It is copper nickel clad, not silver. Its power lies in survival, condition, and the rare magic of error or variation. A perfect or unusual coin is a bridge between history and fortune, a bridge that can transform the life of the finder in an instant. Collectors often say, "Never overlook your pocket change." And for good reason. The most breathtaking coin finds often begin with something as simple and ignored as a state quarter. A 1999 Delaware quarter might sit unnoticed in a coin album for decades, or in a jar of mixed change forgotten in the back of a drawer, before someone finally looks closely enough to see its true promise. The emotional resonance of this coin goes deeper than value. It is tied to the sense of identity, heritage, and pride that the state quarters program ignited. Americans suddenly saw coins not as disposable currency, but as keepsakes of collective memory. Each state's design told a story, and Delaware's story was the story of beginnings, a reminder that every journey starts somewhere, often with a simple step that later reveals extraordinary meaning. In the modern coin market, the most sought-after coins are those that combine rarity, condition, and story. A near-perfect 1999p Delaware quarter holds all three. It is rare because so few survived unscathed. It is rich in story and significance because it is the first in a beloved national series. And it carries condition, the shine, the sharp lines, the untouched surfaces, that make it stand apart from its countless companions. People who collect quarters do not just collect metal. They collect memory, they collect time, and they collect possibility. Each rare coin holds a whisper of a moment when something ordinary became extraordinary, when someone paused, looked closer, and saw that hidden within a humble piece of change was a story worth saving. And so the 1999p Delaware State Quarter lives on not just as currency, but as promise. It reminds those who hold it that value is not always obvious. Sometimes, it hides in plain sight, in the loose change at the bottom of a jar, in the forgotten coins passed down from a grandparent, or tucked between the pages of an old photo album. It reminds us that history rewards curiosity, that rarity rewards perseverance, and that even the smallest piece of metal can carry the weight of possibility. For the person who someday uncovers an exceptional 1999p Delaware quarter, the one with perfect surfaces, brilliant luster, or a rare anomaly, it can be more than just a coin. It can be a turning point, a moment when dream and reality cross paths, a reminder that the future sometimes hides in the past, and that a life can change in the blink of an eye, all because someone took the time to look closely at what others took for granted. Next coin. The story of the 1999 Delaware State Quarter begins not in a myth, but in the deep currents of American identity, where the idea of unity and heritage first took shape. The year 1788, boldly inscribed on this coin's reverse, marks the moment when Delaware became the first state to ratify the United States Constitution, forever earning its place in history as the first state. Yet the Delaware quarter itself would not be minted for over 2 centuries after that pivotal moment. When it finally arrived in 1999, it entered the world quietly, like a whisper that grows into a legacy. In the late 1990s, America was filled with anticipation. The new millennium loomed on the horizon, technology was racing forward, and yet people found solace in remembering where the nation began. The State Quarters program was born out of that yearning, a desire to connect every American with their story, one small piece of metal at a time. Delaware's coin was the very first released in this groundbreaking series, struck in Philadelphia and marked with a familiar D that collectors instantly recognize. From the moment the first Delaware quarters rolled off the presses, they flowed into everyday life. Cash registers, vending machines, bus fare, and pockets across the country. Most people didn't think twice about them. They were just change to be spent, passed on, or tossed into jars at the end of the day. Few realized that these ordinary coins carried within them the seed of something extraordinary, a whisper of history that could one day become a roar. Thomas Jefferson's portrait on the obverse faces outward with calm dignity, remembering the nation's third president and author of the Declaration of Independence. But on the reverse, the Delaware quarter tells a more layered tale. The inscription, 1788, does not mark the coin's year of minting, that's 1999, but the year Delaware ratified the Constitution, stepping forward with courage into the birth of a new nation. This design binds the coin to a moment when the future was uncertain, yet filled with promise. Collectors began noticing that many Delaware quarters had unusual surface qualities, crisp strikes, bold details, and a depth to their fields that seemed rare among so many examples. As time passed, more and more collectors realize something crucial. Condition matters far more than quantity. Millions of these quarters were minted, but only a tiny fraction have survived in near-perfect form. Those untouched pieces, brilliant, sharp, unworn, became the coins that spark intense interest in auctions and collections around the world. A pristine 1999 Delaware quarter looks almost unreal. Hold it under a bright light, and its surfaces catch fire with a glow that mirrors its symbolic importance. That glow is not just metal, it is history, survival, and mystery intertwining in copper and nickel. When collectors see one of these in uncirculated condition, they don't just see a coin, they see a moment frozen in time, a connection to the very beginnings of the American experiment. But rarity and condition are only part of what makes this coin so remarkable. Legends circulate in coin circles about unusual Delaware quarters that show subtle die variations or striking anomalies, slight differences in lettering depth, border spacing, or surface texture that suggest something unique happened in the minting process. These tales keep treasure hunters endlessly hopeful, because where there is possibility, there is passion. Imagine opening a dusty old coin album, handed down through generations, and uncovering a 1999 Delaware quarter that still shines like new, with no trace of wear. Your heart would skip. You would feel the weight of decades passing, the silence of untouched surfaces, and the sudden realization that what once seemed ordinary might be extraordinary. That's the essence of treasure hunting in the coin world, waiting for the unexpected to reveal itself. For many collectors, the thrill isn't just in the monetary value, but in the story the coin tells. This tiny piece of metal carries a lineage, from 1788, when Delaware stepped forward into the Union, to 1999, when its commemorative quarter whispered that history is alive and present. Owning an exceptional example of this coin feels like holding a secret bridge between centuries, a connection few others possess. There is something deeply human about holding a coin that outlived its everyday use, that survived pockets, cash drawers, and decades of circulation only to emerge as a prized jewel. Time has a way of revealing value where none was expected. Ordinary objects become vessels of memory. Coins become mini time capsules, whispering stories to listeners patient enough to hear. Collectors often look at the 1999 Delaware quarter with reverence because it was first in a series that would come to define modern American numismatics. The program's success hinged on each state's narrative, but Delaware's coin holds unique weight as the opening chapter. Just as Delaware led the nation in 1788, this coin led a series that reinvigorated America's relationship with its own currency. In the modern coin market, where collectors seek both beauty and story, the 1999 Delaware quarter stands tall. Its value, while rooted in rarity and condition, is magnified by the tale it carries, of beginnings, of identity, and of hidden wonder. Coins are not always about precious metals. Sometimes they're about precious moments, captured in time and etched into metal. There is a belief among numismatists that the most powerful coins are those that surprise us, coins found in forgotten drawers, coins that had spent decades unexamined, coins that suddenly reveal themselves as treasures. The 1999 Delaware quarter sits right at that intersection, a coin common enough to be overlooked, yet rare enough at its best condition to be remarkable. The idea that a single example of this coin could one day fetch what feels like an unimaginable amount of money, even enough to change someone's fortune overnight, is rooted in the unpredictable nature of the collector market. When supply, demand, history, and condition align perfectly, ordinary items can become extraordinary assets. But beyond the potential monetary value, which is thrilling in its own right, this coin teaches us something deeper. It shows that the smallest artifacts can carry the largest stories. It reminds us that history is not only written in books and monuments, but in the everyday objects that pass through our hands and our lives. In the end, The 1999 Delaware State Quarter is more than a small piece of metal. It is a testament to beginnings and continuity, a vessel of memory from 1788 to 1999 and beyond. For the person lucky enough to hold an exceptional example, it represents possibility, quiet at first, but powerful enough to change a lifetime once finally recognized. Next coin. The story of the 2015 State Quarter begins not in a grand vault or a forgotten attic, but in everyday transactions across America, coins changing hands in pockets and cash registers, slipping through vending machines, and jingling in coin jars. In 2015, the America, the Beautiful Quarters program had already captured the imagination of collectors and everyday people alike. These coins were meant to honor national parks and historic sites, connecting each quarter to a place that tells the story of America's natural and cultural heritage. But among these modern commemoratives lies a quiet mystery: the idea that even a recent circulating coin might hold the key to an extraordinary discovery. On the obverse, the familiar profile of George Washington, resolute, dignified, timeless, reminds us that the quarter remains one of the most enduring emblems of American currency. Washington's face, that of a leader who stood at the dawn of a new nation, also presides over coins created for a world that feels light years removed from his era. That alone gives the 2015 quarter an emotional resonance. We hold history and modernity together in our hands. The Philadelphia Mint, marked by the small but significant P, struck millions of these coins for circulation. In busy coinage facilities, presses roar day and night, turning planchets into pieces of history with every strike. Most of these coins were destined for everyday use, for buying snacks, paying tolls, or making exact change. They were not intended to be admired, hoarded, or studied closely. Yet, like so many objects that faded into utilitarian life, they became the subject of countless treasure-hunting dreams. In 2015, America's coin collectors were deeply engaged with the America, the Beautiful Quarter series. Each design was a tribute to a park, monument, or historic site, a miniature story etched in metal. The 2015 offerings included symbols of soaring mountains, rushing rivers, deep forests, and places that had shaped the American spirit. With each new release, collectors eagerly sought fresh examples, pristine specimens, and coins that had somehow escaped the wear of daily circulation. Most 2015 quarters spent their lives in change trays, purse coin compartments, and pockets. They were used, exchanged, and forgotten. That familiarity, however, became part of their power. Because so many coins were struck and so many were handled roughly, only a tiny percentage remained in extraordinary condition, brilliant, crisp, and untouched by the years. It is these immaculate survivors that today capture the hearts of collectors and spark conversations about rarity and hidden value. A coin that looks ordinary at first glance can become extraordinary under careful inspection. When someone lifts a 2015 quarter and notices the brilliant mint luster still dancing across its surface, the moment becomes electric. When the edges are sharp, the details deep, and the surface is free of wear, the coin no longer feels like pocket change. It feels like a time capsule. Coins like these don't come out of nowhere. They are survivors, rare artifacts that escape the friction of everyday life. Beyond pristine condition, numismatists, coin collectors, look for unusual characteristics, slight variations in minting, subtle differences in strike depth, or minute anomalies that slip through the quality control of the minting process. In rare cases, these details can transform a coin into a treasure. Imagine a 2015 quarter that somehow displays an unexpected accent in its lettering or an unusual surface feature that no one else's coin shares. That potential for rarity ignites passion and speculation in the collector community. Collectors tell stories of finding high-grade coins in places no one expected, a roll of change forgotten under a couch cushion, a jar discovered in a family attic, a collection someone unearthed while cleaning out a childhood room. In those moments, a coin that once seemed ordinary reveals itself to be something rare and valuable. The thrill of that discovery, the gasp, the disbelief, the heart pounding, is the emotion that drives the hunt for coins like the 2015 P quarter. The emotional pull of this coin goes beyond craftsmanship or design. It comes from the notion that hidden beneath plain sight lies something extraordinary. A coin minted just a few years ago, brushed past by millions of people, might contain within its surfaces the potential to astonish. It may not be made of precious metal like silver or gold, but its value comes from survival, condition, and rarity, qualities that combine to create something much more powerful than face value. In the modern coin market, condition is often the greatest determinant of value. A coin that has never been worn, never been scuffed, and never exchanged in everyday life can command dramatically higher prices than one circulated for years. And because most 2015 P quarters were used in daily transactions, pristine examples become rare and increasingly desirable. As collectors seek out these gems, their value in the marketplace rises with it. But rarity is only one part of the story. The 2015 P quarter also carries the story of a nation, a story of parks, monuments, and the landscapes that define the American experience. Each design in the America, the Beautiful series celebrates a different facet of the country's character. To hold one is to hold a piece of that narrative. When a coin is both rare and meaningful, its emotional weight becomes part of its worth. The most valuable coins are not always the oldest. Sometimes they are the coins that survived with their youth intact. A 2015 P quarter that looks like it was minted yesterday, that still gleams with brilliance and carries every detail sharply, is a rare treasure precisely because so few survived untouched. It is the contrast between the ordinary and the extraordinary that makes such coins worth pursuing. Collectors often say that the greatest fortune can be found in the smallest objects. A coin that once seemed insignificant may, decades later, become the centerpiece of a remarkable collection or the heart of an auction that stuns the numismatic world. The idea that one small quarter could one day command prices high enough to change someone's life overnight is not mere fantasy. It is the story that legend and reality have written together through hidden gems and surprising discoveries. There is a quiet power in everyday objects that have survived their intended purpose. The 2015 P quarter was meant to buy a cup of coffee or a parking meter minute. But time recasts its role. Instead of being spent and forgotten, it becomes a window into possibility, a reminder that value often hides beneath surfaces most people overlook. Those who take the time to look closely may be rewarded beyond imagination. And so the story of the 2015 P state quarter becomes more than just a piece of currency. It transforms into a tale of memory, survival, and mystery. It is a reminder that history does not always belong to the distant past. Sometimes history lives in the coins in your pocket, waiting for someone to recognize its depth and its rare, shining promise. For the person who finds a truly exceptional example, untouched by circulation, perfectly preserved, and radiant with original mint brilliance, this coin can be far more than an artifact. It can represent hope, possibility, and even life-altering fortune. It stands as proof that the most unassuming objects can hold tremendous value, if only we take the time to look closely enough.